Number one,
It might, I don't know. It might be middle or.
all the following vessels drain into the portal vein, except, the correct answer would be the renal vein. That would be
literally
D.
said
Renal vein
eating my
drains
mouth.
directly into the inferior vena cava. AJ, good work. Melissa. What up?
What up, Melissa?
Did I put my name?
All right. Number two, the posterior communicating artery connects the correct answer is the posterior cerebral artery to the internal carotid artery. That also would be B. Let it be. Number three, which of the following vessels provides a palpable pulse? See, A says popliteal vein. No, veins don't provide pulses. Palpable pulse. B,
Tricky.
Parietal artery? No,
Yeah.
no. C, posterior tibial artery? That's the one. Posterior tibial artery. Remember, we went over the vessels that provided palpable pulses.
Yeah.
Broca's area, along the lateral aspect of the hemisphere, okay, receives its blood flow from, the correct answer is B, the middle cerebral artery.
I got one right.
So wrong on this quiz.
This is really exciting.
Yes.
Number five, which of the following vessels branch directly off the aortic arch? The A is left subclavian artery. That would be correct, but maybe not the best answer. B, right common carotid artery. That would not be the right answer. That comes off the brachiocephalic trunk. Left common carotid artery, again, that's a good answer, but it's not the best because the best answer is D, both A and C. Okay. Number six, a thrombus. A thrombus. Forming with an anterior tibial artery may result in the loss of which of the following pulses. Well, that anterior tibial artery becomes the dorsalis pedis, which has a pulse ordinarily. But in this case, that pulse would be lost. So the correct answer for number six is C, dorsalis pedis pulse. That wasn't both.
I didn't put that one.
That's stupid.
Number seven, those following.
I don't know if I
A
got one.
thrombus within the left atrium may embolize any of the following vessels except for, the correct answer is the left pulmonary artery. That's on the other side of the circulation. That's a different circuit.
So maybe
So it could
one of them?
embolize to the right popliteal artery, to the middle cerebral artery, to the left brachial artery, but it's not going to embolize to the left pulmonary artery because that comes off the right ventricle, not the left.
What answer was that?
So that would be C. Got it?
Yeah.
All right. Number 8. Which of the following vessels drain directly into the inferior vena cava? Hepatic veins?
Yeah.
Yes. Femoral veins? No.
No.
External iliac veins?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Oh, the
Those would be the
internal.
common iliac veins.
Oh.
So the best answer there would be A. Number 9. Which of the following vessels provide blood flow to the rectum?
That's very
Is it two?
The correct answer would be both the internal iliac artery and the inferior mesenteric artery. So that would be D, both A and C.
All about the rectum.
All about the rectum. And believe it or not, you'll find out that it's very true. When you take pharmacology, you realize it's all about the rectum.
Yeah?
It's all about
It's my favorite.
bad stuff, bad stuff.
Number 10, the vertebral artery is a branch of, the correct answer is, thank you, A, subclavian artery. A, subclavian artery. Identify the 4 vessels that provide blood flow to the brain. It would be the right and left internal carotid artery and the right and left vertebral artery. So those are 4 vessels.
Did I put my name on them?
That's a good question. I think I got a 50 with the bonus.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my god. I'm so mad
So
at
for
myself.
instance, if you put half the answer wrong, then, you know,
So I
you
get
lose
5
that.
points for that?
We don't know, we'll see.
Dr. Pinner, did I put my name on
Give
it?
me 5 points.
If you did, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Don't worry.
What was the answer for the bonus?
The bonus is the right and left internal carotid artery
And the right left.
and the right and left vertebral artery.
Okay, good.
Because the external just does the scalp and all
We
that.
needed those 10 points.
I forgot to put it.
And,
Okay, how'd y'all do? Y'all felt pretty good about that?
No.
75. Sucks.
I think I got a 50 with the bonus.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got a 50 with the bonus.
Damn it. Probably got a honey.
I'm good at that, thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Penner,
Yes.
I have a beef with one of your questions and answers.
Okay.
Because you said, you asked what branches directly off of the aortic arch,
Uh-huh.
and subclavian was one of the correct answers.
The left subclavian.
Right, but to me it doesn't, because it's the brachiocephalic first.
No, so you're right, that would, the right subclavian would not branch off the aortic arch. You're right.
Oh, the
The answer is the
orniquist.
left subclavian.
Oh,
The left subclavian and the left common carotid. So you're right. If that would have been the answer, I would have beef with the 2.
okay.
You're right. Comes
For
off
some
the
reason I
brachiocephalic.
thought I saw right. Okay. That makes
Check
sense.
just to make sure.
I read this yesterday.
What?
I said I read this chapter yesterday. Good boy.
And then later.
And then I
not
forgot
so
all
much.
of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Tell me.
Well, I did on purpose.
No, it says left subclavian artery. That was A. B was right common carotid.
Wait.
C was left common carotid.
On your
Okay.
Snapchat, the part that was
I'm
racist,
just,
why
I
was it
can't read
racist?
today.
Because you put that it was racist, but you shouldn't put okay.
All right. Last class before the big dance, before the Mardi Gras. How many people go to Mardi Gras?
Maybe.
I've not been
No,
to one
I don't think I am.
Keep it that way. I regret every
Oh,
decision.
because I've done it 1,000 times. And I want to use that time differently. It's my birthday.
What are you doing for your birthday?
Happy birthday.
Well, I was telling them that I'm really doing stuff the next
What?
day. Because Mardi Gras is hard to do much on, you know. But the next day I'm going to Pelican. My son sent me to the Pelicans game. Something on there. And it's nice tickets, really nice tickets. I don't like sitting way up there, where you can't see anything.
I think you can see a lot.
hard for your mom to go through all that
It's up there.
Have a big enough TV.
It said if you think about your mom went through a lot of trouble to give birth to you
Yeah,
because of all the
that's
traffic.
good. She had to.
Because of all the
Yeah,
traffic.
never mind. Yeah. You were born on.
Oh, but you know,
Well,
Mardi
it
Gras.
changes. It's early this year.
It changes. Although it's been on the 9th, like this is like the 3rd time in my life, or the 4th time maybe. It happens periodically. All right, so let's talk about cardiovascular system now. You already know this slide. Arteries carry blood away from the heart into the circulation. Veins, it's the opposite. And then situated between arteries and veins are a group of the smallest blood vessels called capillaries. Okay. The capillaries are the sites of exchange of oxygen and nutrients, CO2. So this is where nutrients and gases are exchanged from the tissues. Capillaries, of course, are going to drain into the veins, which is going to carry the blood back to the heart. Okay. In general, arteries, and this will be true of veins as well, have walls which consist of 3 layers. The innermost layer is called the tunica intima. The middle layer is called the tunica media. And the outermost layer is called either the tunica externa or tunica adventitia. Let's start with the innermost layer. Lining the lumen is a simple squamous epithelium, what we call the endothelium. And that's supported by a small amount of connective tissue. So that endothelium and connective tissue makes up the tunica intima. Okay. Deep to that, the tunica media is the thickest layer in the arteries. It's not the thickest layer in veins, but in arteries it is the thickest layer. And consists mostly of smooth muscles with elastic fibers. And then the outermost layer, the tunica externa, is made from connective tissue, mostly collagen with some elastic fibers, and some smaller structures like the nasal vasorum, which is Latin for vessels of vessels. Why? Because blood vessels require blood flow, just like any other structure or organ. So, if you look at a blood vessel in cross-section, it'll be lined by some squamous epithelium. And many times under the microscope, by the way, you won't see the cytoplasm. The only thing you'll see is the nucleus of that vessel, that endothelial cell. I'm sorry, not of the vessel, but of the cells. And you'll have a small amount of connective tissue here in the tunica intima. And you'll have multiple layers of smooth muscle with some elastic fibers within the medium. And then out here in the tunica externa, you will see little blood vessels like this in cross section, scattered along the externa. And these are the vasa vasorum. The innermost layers of an artery receive their oxygen from the blood flowing within the lumen. However, the outermost layers have to receive their oxygen from the vasa vasorum. Now, within the tunica externa, you'll also see autonomic nerve fibers. These fibers are coming in from the outside to provide innervation to the tunica media. Why? Because arteries are active in vasoconstriction and vasodilation. When the smooth muscle contracts, the vessel lumen gets smaller. We call it vasoconstriction. When the smooth muscle within the tunica media relaxes, then the lumen of the vessel dilates. We call it vasodilation. Okay? You'll also find sensory nerve fibers. Anybody who's undergone an arterial puncture, let's say for arterial blood gases, know that when you enter the wall of the artery, it's a very painful experience. On the other hand, capillaries have only a single layer within their wall, mostly made up of simply an endothelium. And that very thin wall allows for diffusion of gases and nutrients. Now, in general, the veins are thinner than the corresponding arteries, but their lumen is larger. Okay. You know that arteries and veins tend to travel together. The brachial artery is right next to the brachial vein. Okay? So when you look at these two vessels in a tissue section, it's going to look a little bit like this, where the artery is going to have a thicker wall but a smaller lumen, and the vein is going to look more like this, a thinner wall, the larger lumen. You'll also note that the vein generally appears to be partially collapsed. Okay? It's not fully open to the same degree, and that's because the veins, generally, the pressure within veins is much, much lower. They have a thinner wall, so they're more susceptible to collapse. Okay. The tunica intima in veins is very similar to that of arteries. The only thing is that in the smallest venules, the ones that follow the capillaries, that the capillaries drain into, their walls tend to be very porous. It means that they allow substances to exit into the surrounding tissue, just like the capillaries do. In general, in veins, the tunica media is thinner than the corresponding arteries, but the thickest layer in veins is the tunica externa. So they have a thicker tunica externa than do corresponding arteries. The other thing is within the tunica externa, you have more vasa vasorum. And that makes sense because most systemic veins carry unoxygenated blood. So there's less oxygen available to diffuse into the inner layers of that wall, okay, because it's carrying unoxygenated blood. So you require more vasa vasorum within the outer regions of that wall to compensate. This is a little drawing that JJ and I put together. And it depicts the various layers of an artery. This layer here is the endothelium sitting on a basement membrane with some surrounding connective tissue. Okay? So these represent together the tunica intima. Okay? Now, out here, you have multiple layers of smooth muscle concentrically arranged around the vessel. This would be the tunica media. Now, there's a sheet of elastic tissue that sits between the tunica intima and tunica media that is well organized in arteries. This is called either the internal elastic lamina or the internal elastic membrane. Okay. The deepest layer here is the tunica externa or adjuvant tissue. These are vasa vasorum that are seen longitudinally. And you can see also nerve fibers coming